Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 279 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on October 14th, 2025. How are all you wonderful folks doing on this fine fall day? Yeah, I hope you're doing well. I'm doing well. Taught a course today in which we demonstrated explosions to a lot of people. That was pretty cool. None of them had ever seen a large explosion before. And it's always cool to see their eyes light up when the blast wave hits their chest and everything. Teach them about different types of combustion and energy releases is pretty cool. And I think most people have seen explosions. They just don't think about it. Many of you have used fireworks, and heck, if you're listening to this podcast, most of you have shot small arms, right? And what are you doing when you're doing that? Well, you're containing explosions. You're containing explosions within those systems, and you're letting them do work for you in a controlled fashion. And the object of the game that we're playing here at Pew Science is to see how much we can reduce the hazards from those explosions. That's right. Silencers are, in fact, hazard reduction devices. Yeah, you forget about that, right? On today's episode, we're going to discuss the performance of one of these protective devices. We'll do the technical deep dive of last week's report publication. Last week, that was report 6203 at pewscience.com. That's the Combat Application Technologies CACM 556 on the 10.3-inch Mark 18. Excuse me. Very interesting silencer, so we're going to dig into that. All right, so now let's get on with the show. If you've been here before, welcome back. We're glad to have you back. If you're new to the podcast, boy, welcome. So glad to have you here. Always keep in mind there are timestamps in the episode description for you to skip wherever you would like. All right, but if you want to hang out with me a little bit longer, I'm going to tell you about the sponsors that make the podcast possible. The first one is Legion Athletics. Nothing you do, exercise, sports, shooting, anything is worth doing without consistency. You have to do things all the time if you want to be good at them. Legion Athletics can certainly help you with that. They have a variety of supplements, whey protein, pre-workout, post-workout, creatine, vitamins, stuff like that. One cool thing about Legion is that if you take their stuff, you're not going to fail a drug test. If you're a tested athlete, and maybe if you're under USADA or WADA, if it's worldwide anti-doping, you don't have to worry about that stuff from Legion. They send their stuff out to independent labs to verify the purity of their components, so that's pretty cool. Use the code word PewScience. It gets you buy one, get one 50% off of your entire shopping cart. And then you also can use that code on your next orders forever to get 20% cash back in the form of points or whatever. So get strong. It's important. Legion Athletics is a link in the show notes. Just click that link and go buy stuff. This podcast is also brought to you by Silencer Shop. Silencer Shop has done a lot for consumers and for the industry. They've done a lot for dealers, large and small, nationwide. If you're looking to get into the space, you don't want to hold a lot of overhead and inventory, Silencer Shop might be right for you. Use their kiosk, do your fingerprints and photos electronically. You cut down on errors. You simplify your silencer purchasing process. You get a money-back guarantee. There's all kinds of benefits. You don't pay any transfer fees, no paperwork errors. It's just you and your silencer with no drama. Truly your silencer ownership simplified. Podcast is also brought to you by Top Gun Range Houston. They're a pretty good crew out of Top Gun. Kyle and his crew are first rate, 15-lane indoor shooting range, largest firearm rental fleet in the entire state of Texas. You can rent all the pistols and rifles and shotguns and machine guns that you want to and demonstrate them there at their place. It's indoors, climate controlled. Yeah, check out their inventory at topgunrange.com. It's pretty cool. You can find them on Instagram at Top Gun Range. Really good folks. They provide really good hands-on educational space there as well. This episode is also brought to you by Capel Armory. I got news for you. If you think demand is slowing down and you're just going to be able to get whatever you want, you're probably not going to be able to do that. So Capel Armory has a new twist. Chances are, if you're interested in the silencer, you find on the website, and if you live in one of the 42 states where silencers are legal, you can actually pick which one you want on their website and then have it shipped directly to the same living room. You don't even have to leave your house. Let's say you work nights and you just can't get to the dang gun store or something. Capillary might be something for you. Gives you an option that's kind of out of the ordinary that you're not used to be able to do. So it can have a high degree of utility for many of you, I think. Finally, the podcast is brought to you by the Pew Science Laboratory. I'm the technical director of the lab. In the interest of public education, we have chosen to continue to do this podcast. It's getting crazy. Hundreds of episodes. We run a public research effort, and the purpose of this podcast is to educate the public on the research. So far, so good. It's pretty cool. You can visit our website at pewscience.com. There's a variety of information there. One of the primary things you get is the suppression rating. It's the simplest, most accurate hearing safe rating for suppressed small arms. We compute that based on the entire gunshot. All right, it's based on true human inner ear response of the entire event, from before the combustion takes place all the way until all the combustion is gone. Pew Science is the home of the Silencer Sound Standard. 7 sections. It's the most in-depth and accurate silencer data analysis in the world. All available to the public 24/7 at pewscience.com. Almost for 6 years now doing that, which is crazy. Isn't that cool? It's working very, very well. Very pleased. Could not be more pleased with the effort and with all of you. And speaking of you, did you know you can participate? Yeah, there is listener participation here. You can support the podcast. You can support Pew Science, the lab. You can support all the public testing we do for you by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. It's really cheap, and you get access to a lot of the data, and you get to help the greatest silencer research effort in the history of the world. I recognize that not everyone likes monthly fees. I get it. There's a donate feature on the review page and the podcast page. Every little bit helps. That's a one-time thing. Also, something that's free and doesn't cost you anything. You can give the podcast a good 5-star rating on iTunes. Or Spotify, or like and subscribe on YouTube, or wherever you smoke signals, wherever you listen to the podcast. You can let folks know that silencers and guns are awesome. Normalize the use of suppressed small arms. That would be really, really good. And so we have one topic today. Why don't we do that? Yeah, so we're going to get into this topic. It's going to be a topic on the Combat Application Technologies CACM 556 that we published a report on last week. We'll split it into intro, physical overview, silencer design, and system performance. I think that's fair. All right, so let's get started on the intro at a time of 7 minutes and 39 seconds. Okay, one moment. Okay, I give a course today. It's like you talk all day and then you're like, oh, yeah, makes sense to record a podcast when you get home. It's crazy. So topic 1, intro. So this is the sole topic of today, but there will be many sections to it. So this was Article 6203, the CACM 556 on the standard 10.3 inch Mark 18. This was a system optimized silencer, or is a system optimized silencer, meaning they sell it with their own rifle platform. But I personally, I didn't think that was really going to be of high utility to the group, and the group being the world, like you and me. I thought it would be much better on the Mark 18, so we could compare apples to apples, and they agree with that. And this standard host platform is what we did. And so the question is, they use the surge bypass technology. Like, you've seen multiple iterations of this and multiple models from them and multiple cartridges. Like, how is it performing on this system? So I want to go through that. And like I said, we're going to go, give a little intro, and then we'll go through, the physical characteristics, the actual design. Then we'll go talk to performance. And I think when we get to the performance, you can probably follow along at home with the report. You can follow along anytime if you want, just to kind of check it out. Remember, it's Article 6203 at pewscience.com. That's in Section 6 of the standard. But right now, I'm just going to give you some general discussion. And I want you to know, and I have it right here in front of me, this is a 5.56 silencer, a 5.56 rifle silencer. And you might wonder, can you shoot 6mm projectiles through it, like a 243 stuff instead of the 223? And I haven't done it. I bet it would fit. It might work. I would be careful, because it is a full-size silencer. So if the bore is tight and it's not made for that, you do run the risk of, if you don't have perfect alignment, having some issues. I don't know that it's optimized for 6mm. So if you do shoot 6mm through the silencer, just let me know how it goes. I don't know that it would be great. It could be. I'd be interested. You might want to talk to the manufacturer, though. You probably don't want to break it. I think this silencer, I want to be able to do this justice, but I think I have to give you a background. I think this is one of those models that, in my opinion, it sort of sets the stage for being a benchmark. I don't know. I don't know if it's a benchmark. I don't know if I want to say that. It's because I think that's a strong word. I think that's a really strong word. If you look through silencer history, there have certainly been benchmarks at multiple points in history, right? We can go all the way back to the beginning, sure, but in modern times, there's been a lot of benchmarks within the past few decades. The AWC Mark IX, I think, was a benchmark, very large subgun silencer, but I think that was a good benchmark. I think the Knights Armament Mark 23 silencer, huge, important benchmark, very famous. Some newer stuff, it's all newer than that, but older than current, like the SWR Trident 9, the AAC Tyrant, SWR Trident 9, the AAC Tyrant 9, AAC M4 2000, right? The Ops Inc. stuff, right? The 12th model. I think that was pretty benchmark like. I think the Surefire RC, the Gemtech Mark 9K, that kind of that redo of the old AWC Mark 9, I think were important silencers, and I could go on and on. I think I'm just hitting some high points. I'm sure I'm forgetting some really glorious silencers of old. I'm sure, and not everything I mention is perfect, but they are considered benchmarks by quite a few people. I mean, Gemtech Halo. There's some things that it's not perfect, but it's well known enough to be a benchmark for better or worse. I think all you longtime silencer enthusiasts know what I'm saying. You know the point I'm getting at here. I think in every generation of shooter, there are technology generations that they dovetail in. The technology generations dovetail in with the shooter generations, and they kind of become those pivotal points that if you're into silencers or have been for a while, sometimes they completely define the generation. What's the AAC 762 silencer, the STN 6 or whatever it is. Some of those silencers, they defined an entire generation of silencer shooters and silencer consumers. I think those days are, man, I don't want to say they're going away. I don't want to think that, but in a sense, the market's much larger now. There are a significant amount of companies out there, but I think there might still be benchmarks in modern times. It just feels different now. And if you look, for example, you look at the Silencer Co. Omega 300, right? If you're making a 30 caliber rifle silencer today, and it can't hang with the Omega for around the same size and weight, like in suppression performance and durability, then you've probably missed a major benchmark that you should have hit, right? I mean, let's be honest with each other, okay? Like, let's be upfront here. I mean, if you can't hang with an Omega in all those different traits, then you're not competing. You're not very competitive. And I think that's what benchmarks are for. And I think that's why they exist, or why they come to exist, and why I think they have a right to exist and are amazing to have. I think benchmarks are cool. And there's no one out there that's going to say that the Omega is state of the art, but they are going to say, yeah, that sounds just pretty good for what it is. Now where that silencer came from and its pedigree, well, that's a whole other conversation. Okay, let's not put silencer co on an altar or something because of the Omega. I understand. I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying. I'm using that as an example because that Omega might be one of, if not the, best-selling silencer of all time, right? One second. So, pretty important. And there are several other examples in the present time that I think have set new benchmarks. I mean, us old silencer people, still see things like that. Like even if the new folks out there aren't seeing it, we see this. Like there are some benchmarks that are here from very popular brands now, and they're doing so well. They are actually considered benchmarks already in history, and they're relatively new. And if these companies aren't even that old, and what does that mean? Well, it means that competition is advancing, and the way we quantify performance is advancing. So we're able to pick these diamonds in the rough, right? That's what we're able to do with the technology we have. I think some examples I can think about, like off the top of my head, of benchmarks that have come in recent years. The high back pressure, simple stuff like the Otter Creek Labs Polonium. I think some of the rifle silencer stuff that was super advanced within the past 5 to 10 years, CGS Hyperion, I think that deserves, like, if you had a Mount Rushmore of silencers, that would be on it. I don't think anyone can disagree with that. That was a revolutionary thing. I think some very, very, very recent pistol stuff, like the Dead Air Mojave 9, I think belongs in the conversation. I think the Cat SC definitely belongs in the conversation. And how crazy is that? Because the Mojave is a really great silencer. And the wild part about that is the Cat SC blows it away. And so that's one of the most, in my opinion, if I was roughing a game, if I was, just doing a play-by-play here, just in recent past, I'm talking within the past year, that's one of the most insane things I've ever seen happen. That level of competition. Crazy. That particular battle in 9mm semi-automatic pistol suppression literally reminds me of the old SWR AAC Gemtech competition days, back when they were just frothing at the mouth, going at each other's throats. God, it was such violent, childlike competition. But I mean, consumers. Oh, it's funny. I was going to say consumers ended up winning, but did they? I mean, maybe they did. There was a lot of really, really, really good competition back then. And I think, I could go, I don't want to belabor this. I'm probably leaving out a lot of companies. I think there's others out there that are probably making some benchmarks too. Some, and, some famous, some infamous. But the reality is, benchmarks are rare by their nature. They should be rare. Not everyone's going to get a trophy, and not everyone's going to be pivotal. I know there's tons of silencer companies coming out because of the demand, because the tax stamp's going away. I know that's why. But make no mistake, not everyone gets a gold medal. But so in this talk, I'm going to make a point here. I'm going to talk about why we think the CACM silencer from Cat might be one of these benchmarks in a way. And that's objective. It's actually going to be an objective discussion because it's based on data and analysis. And that's what we bring to you on this podcast. That's what we bring to you on the website. And so now I want to hit the physical overview and note that, and before we go on, this was talked about last episode, and you can see this in the report as well. All of this is going to hold pretty much technically for the Apparition Instruments 5CM. It's largely the same silencer, more or less, and that silencer, I have no idea when you're going to be able to get that thing. But whoever didn't get a CACM rifle, you can have no fear because you'll be able to get the 5CM silencer, and that'll be good for you. Okay, so we'll talk physical characteristics now at a time of 19 minutes and 39 seconds. And there's going to be probably some performance sprinkled in this little subtopic just because context matters, and I can't talk about some of the physical things without also mentioning some of the performance because it's relevant. One second. Okay, so... And this part's important because I think some folks have lost sight of true comparisons. And I keep saying this, but I think it's time to have a little bit of a come to Jesus. And I think some of you need to remember why Pew Science started and how we were running this 5-6 years ago with come at this with the same passion you had back then. Like, what's that movie Memento, when he puts the Post-it notes on the mirror that says "Don't believe his lies"? Like, guys, this is the anti-marketing that you need to be aware of. Like, you need to stop taking everything you see at face value from people who are selling you products. It doesn't matter if it's silencers or cars or lamps or whatever consumer product that you're interested in. You need to understand you can get hoodwinked if you're not careful. Okay, Pew Science is literally here to help you not get hoodwinked and set expectations. We have the suppression rating we have given you. It is now approaching the 6th year of use publicly. We also know how big silencers are. We know their measurements. We can physically measure them. Okay, cool. So this silencer, when you don't have a mount installed, I have it right in front of me, you can measure it yourself. It's 5.84 inches long with no mount inside it. When you install the mount and the wrench flats on the mount poke out of the back of it there, it becomes 6.1 inches long from the base of the wrench flats, where they index on the shoulder of your barrel behind the end of the threads, to the tip of the silencer. All right. So, and I'm doing this for a reason. I know this is like tiresome for some of you. Stick with me. I went to the member visualization tool at pewscience.com in the member ranking section, and I selected Mark 18 in the weapon system dropdown. And then I filtered the list with maximum length of 6.2 inches, just to make sure I caught this one. I want you to look at where the CACM 556 silencer sits on that chart, okay? It would, in doing that exercise. And it's, when you do that exercise, for actual size of silencer, it's not just doing a little bit better than the other silencers in that size class. It's pretty far in the lead. It's frankly a standout from the pack, like objectively in data space, on the plot. Okay, so this is 6.1 inches long with the mount. Remember, all the data in that chart for members, that's all as tested. It's not make-believe super happy fun time lengths. It's lengths that were on the gun tested physically. Because it doesn't matter what the other length it is unless it was tested, and because the performance is matched to the size envelope. Okay? If I put a super duper long super adapter on this thing to make it 9 inches long, and then it bumped the suppression rating by 10 points, and then what? I put that on the website and then put this is only 6 inches long? No, they lie. And we'd be no better than the silencer companies lying to you about the size of the silencer, right? I'm being really real with you. And I can tell you right now, Pew Science is going to give you the realest opinion about a silencer you're ever going to hear ever. We are the realest in the game, and we've been like this for half a decade doing it because we have to protect the consumer. Okay, so 6.1 inches long. You look at that chart. You're not going to see other things get that close on the Mark 18. Until you get to like 6.4 inches or then 7 inches, and then they're still not reaching the performance. Then you slide that slider to the right more. You got to get to 8.1 inches in the filter box until something touches it on the Mark 18. So doing the math, you have to get 33% longer than the CACM to meet the performance of the CACM. Holistically. Like you have to be longer by a third. You don't have to be like 50% longer, but you need to be a third longer, which is still pretty significant. I'm using easy to understand fractions. You got to increase the length of the silencer by a third with other techs to get the performance out of this. So this is fact. This is measurable. This is calculated suppression rating. I'm telling you, this is literally nothing I have told you has opinion. This is all completely factual. It's not even up for debate because it's real. All right? Cool. So physically, for the performance, the CACM silencer could be considered very, very small for the performance. It could be. But for a 556 silencer, it's considered normal size. That's right. Why? Because 6 inches is not long, guys. I don't care what she told you. Okay? 6 inches is not big. Okay? It is not long. This is a normal sized 556 silencer. So this is the full size CAT 556 silencer, okay, that you can compare with the 4.75 inch long with the mount CAT KK. So you have the CAT KK, and I don't know what report that was. It's a few reports back. It should be still on the front page of the reviews on pewscience.com, and if not, go to the rankings table, sort by report number, record number, descending, and you'll find it. You went from 4.75 inches long with the mount with a KK, you go to 6.1 inches long with the mount with a CACM 556. Quite a difference. Those two size envelopes are different. You move from less than 5 inches to right over 6. Okay, you have changed design envelope, you have changed silencer envelope. Clearly you should have performance change. Okay, especially given using similar technologies. Okay, so I'm trying to give you this subtopic is on physical overview. I told you I was going to talk about performance too, because you need to understand physically how big the silencer is and what you should be comparing it with and not comparing it with. That's the whole point of this. Okay, so let's look at another dimension, diameter. All right, 1.6 inches, more or less. All right. 1.6 inch diameter. Did I put that in the report? I did. It's in the report. So it's not like a super thick thing, not super thin. It's not you know what it's not? It's not an old school 1.5 inch diameter 556 silencer, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with those. But it's also not on that trend that I think, who started that? Q probably, or SIG. It's not the higher volume 1.75 inch diameter either. No, 1.6. And the one we tested, titanium. That's not available in this. The CACM silencer doesn't. You're not going to get a titanium one, but it's light. It's in my hand. It's 9.2 ounces. The mount's 2.4, so that's 11.6 ounces when we tested it. But the one you can buy. 17.1 ounces in Inconel, approximately. And then I think you add the mount, you're like at 19.5 ounces with the mount. Inconel, then you stainless steel mount, of course. I think the 5CM, the apparition instruments equivalent of this, I think you might be able to get in titanium as well as Inconel. Why would you want titanium instead of Inconel? Weight savings, really. I mean, that's the only reason. Why would you want Inconel instead of titanium? Well, you would have less sparking and more durability for extreme use. I think something that's important is that, whatever version you pick or have of the silencer, titanium or Inconel, one thing, it's not a tank on the end of the gun. It's not like crazy. It's just not super heavy, and there's nothing magic there about that. I mean, the weight savings is because the silencer is just not that big. It's a normal size silencer. I'm not saying it's a tiny silencer, because it's not. This is not a K silencer. This is a 6 inch long silencer, which means it's a full size 556 silencer. It's normal. It's not super light, but it's also not super heavy. For the size, I think it just makes sense based on material density. There's nothing remarkable, I think, about the weight of the system, frankly. The outside of the silencer. So this is 3D printed Inconel or titanium. So the Inconel alloy that CAT uses is proprietary. And I think the titanium one is too. But these are black. I don't know, maybe you can get a different color one. I don't know how that works. I think they might have a custom ordering system that lets people get different colors. I don't know. I don't do that stuff. But this one is black. The outside of the silencer is a little different from some of the other models you've seen from CAT. I think that the distal end, the end where the bullet comes out, it's flat. It's a flat perforated plate. They have less of the flow shaping features externally shown to you this time. They're keeping them internal here. Moving aft, like toward where the mount is, you have a grip surface that's a little different than you're used to seeing from them. A little kind of machine notches there, or machined, printed into. I think it's a pattern print. This is a printed silencer. I don't think that's a post machining operation. So you have a grip surface, and then at that proximal end, you have a simple bevel on the edge, and then you got where the left hand, the 1x16 thread, the left hand threads go in for the nano mount, or and the nano mount comes with a silencer. There's nothing fancy here. There's nothing like that screams exotic, like whoa, what's that? It's pretty plain Jane. It's probably the most plain Jane 556 silencer from CAT. In my opinion, this is just a personal opinion, and I'll tell you, whenever I give opinions versus fact, I'll tell you, in my opinion, and I've given you this to you for like 5 years, I like plain black silencers. I always have. My entire silencer obsession time in my life. For decades, I think plain black silencers are classy. That's the style I like. Looks clean. This one looks clean to me. I think this is, if I had to give a subjective opinion of how it looks, I think it's a classic look with a little bit of a modern twist. Personal opinion about the aesthetics. Okay? Yeah. Let's talk more. Let's talk in more detail about the design at a time of 32 minutes and 21 seconds. Yeah, silencer design. Man, tell you what. Speaking of the proximal end, yes, it's an integrated mount. And I have, where is it? I have the mount on my desk, this little nano. I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to make it so you can hear it. So I'm going to drop it in, and I'm going to tighten it lefty-tighty, snug it, and it is in there. And I can, oops, I just got it too tight. And I can take it righty-loosey, left-hand threads, not right-hand threads, and take it out. Pretty easy, no frills. The silencer itself has the mount integrated into it with the muzzle device separate, the mount being the female, the muzzle device being the male. An integrated mount silencer, which is a silencer that screws to its own mount or its own muzzle device, not a universal one, is more common in the world than you think. It's actually how almost all silencers, except direct thread silencers, used to mount. Almost every single silencer that you would ever buy would, would have its own mounting system, except for the direct threads, which is a direct thread to the barrel. And, universal mounts, so-called universal mounts, did not exist. Universal mounting schemes did not exist other than standardized barrel threads. And even then, there was some discrepancies. And one of the reasons why universal mounts didn't exist is, most silencer designers and silencer enthusiasts know that the mount is literally part of the silencer. Silencer mounts influence silencer performance. Full stop. Okay? So traditionally, silencer mounts were designed with the silencer in mind. They were. And it would run completely contrary to the, rational, practical person looking from the outside in, though, right? I mean, if you're a rational person, like maybe someone mechanically inclined who really likes to use tools, things like that, like a normal person, they would look at the silencer market and say, boy, wouldn't it be nice if every silencer mounted the same way, or we could have a way to mix and match silencer mounting methods. And that person would I think, be totally justified in that way of thinking. I think it's a very reasonable ask to want that. I think it's a reasonable request, and I think most normal people would agree with it. I'm not saying that universal mounting's stupid. I've never said that. I think it's very reasonable. It's more than reasonable to want that. I mean, I'm inclined to agree with it in some ways, but make no mistake, if you change the mounting system of a silencer, the performance will change 100% of the time. Now, the $1 million question is, does it matter? It's not a question of will it change. The question is, does it matter? Will it change enough to make a difference? That's the question. Now, in many cases, when silencers aren't very advanced, it might not even make a big difference. And if the mount's not that special, it might not make a big difference. And that's a good thing because it can make your life easier, and also ignorance is bliss. But when you start trying to make magic, when you start trying to push the envelope of performance and start wanting to make the whole system work as one, you're going to start, taking the back seats out of your car, lighten the load a little bit. You can shave that 100th off the quarter mile time. And, I know that's a silly, crude analogy, but when you really start to look at performance and you're not just getting groceries with the car, maybe you start to look a little closer at what you're doing. The CACM is designed with the Nano. The Nano does a couple things. First thing it does is some shock reflection back toward the muzzle, frankly, and this is inevitable based on the design. I think you can see that. Is it cherry bomb level? I don't think so. Second thing it does is radial dispersion of the blast jetting. That's through the radial ports, as you can imagine. If you look at a Nano, and that's a good thing to tell you if you're not familiar with this muzzle device. So you look at this little Nano mount. It's a pretty bare bones. You got the hex features on the back there. You got the left-hand coarse thread. You have this taper. And then forward of the taper, you have, how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 radial ports that are oval shaped, and there are a certain size. There's a certain size, and there's a certain placement forward and aft. And then there's also obviously a hole where the bullet comes out. This little bevel there, and it's not like a free bore where the bore is like the same. The ID is not like very similar to the OD of the radial ports. It's more there's a flange on the front, so there is area where you could get load reflections inside the mount. I think that it's important to know that the radial jetting does change response. So let's go through that again just to make sure we're on the same page. The first thing this does is it is going to reflect a little bit of shock. The second thing it's going to do is it's going to have radial dispersion. The third thing it's going to do is it's going to change the primary jet intensity, I think, the primary axial jet intensity. I do have some anecdotal information about this that I would like to share with you. But keep in mind, this is just me, and this is not exhaustive, and it's just one data point. But I'm going to give you this anecdotal information that I don't usually share all the time unless I have it, right? But it's an anecdote, and take it for what it's worth. Take it or leave it. And I think maybe if I share it, maybe someone else will share some info too. I have used a Nano on a 6.75 inch MCX, SIG M6, 300 blackout, and I've really abused a titanium silencer. Okay, like with supersonic ammo, and I am just simply not seeing erosion in that silencer with supersonic ammo, and I'm sure there's some in there. So I'm sure there's some erosion in there, and I'm sure you could break it if you want to break it, right? You can break anything. But I'm not seeing it happen like I would expect it to happen, and I'm guessing it has something to do with the way the Nano was working. and I'm seeing marks from radial jet impingement on the sidewalls of the first expansion chamber, of the blast chamber and the silencer. So that's interesting. I think that if you shoot this nano in these silencers, I think you're gonna see radial jetting marks, which is cool because that's like a super thick area of the silencer, so you're not gonna hurt it or nothing. And it's spreading it out, which is good, right? You're spreading out the jet impingement, which is always good. You always want to diffuse, right? You want to diffuse. The CACM, I think you got to ask, would the jetting, would the nano blocking or alleviating the propensity for erosion, would that also help on 5.56? I guess is the $1 million question, right? Like on a 5.56 SBR, like the Mark 18 we tested it on. And I'm not sure. I think probably I think there's a good chance it will help and does. I think probably to get a feel for this, I think folks are just gonna have to shoot other cat silencers with the nano and then see, like, whether that be titanium or Inconel or whatever, and then kind of just look at the blast chambers and see. Right now, I think the radial dispersion and the primary jet intensity and that change in focusing of that jet, I think it's a potential nano benefit. Now, are those shock reflections off that mount going to introduce extra internal impulse you don't want in some situations? I mean, I think potentially. Is that becoming an issue for some people? I don't know. I have seen some things personally on my personal MCX that I am currently investigating with supersonic ammo. We're going to see, but that's just something I'm looking at. I mean, I think I welcome any feedback. I know there was one gentleman was using an MCX with 300 blackout, and he couldn't get, I think he had a CAT ODB, and he couldn't get the thing to cycle with subs because the ODB is like super high early time flow rate. That thing's weird. And he put the nano mount on there and it worked. I was like, he's building an internal impulse. That's a shock reflection phenomenon that's building that internal impulse. So that's cool. That's one thing that can be good with that system. Because it just depends on your silencer, right? One second. So it's kind of cool to know you have those little tools at your disposal. But I think we're still learning about it. I don't think a lot of people have been using these. Moving on a little bit. So this CACM silencer, it's using surge bypass. We've talked about that technology a lot on the podcast before. I think the nano is really, really helping that tech in this particular case. We got some questions on social media about what the performance gap is between using a spooky mount and a nano mount. The spooky mount being like a flash hider, like a bird cage type flash hider, that 1x16 thing they got. I'm gonna tell you, in the CACM silencer testing trials, that was a really, really big change from spooky to nano. Big. And like way more than you would think. And now you can run whatever mount you want. Like anything that threads into the silencer, run. I don't care what you do. I literally do not care what you do. However, what I do care about is your expectations and them being met. So I'm going to tell you, if you want to see the performance that we published in this report from your silencer on the gun we tested, you're going to need to use the mount that comes with the silencer that we tested. I mean, if you shoot it with a different mount, you may still like it. I don't care. Or you may not like it, but I'm just telling you what's going to happen. It's not going to be the same. Okay, and so broad strokes in the design, you can kind of think, you can think of the CACM and by relation, the 5CM, it's kind of like a WB with more stages and more advanced stagnation relief. And it's larger than the WB with a built-in mount. So this is a really efficient design. Essentially, you are able to inject high-pressure blast loads into the CACM silencer, and you then throttle the exit without significant stagnation. So let me say that in plain English. You're actually flowing relatively fast, and you're truncating the momentum accumulation rate. Like you still have pretty fast blowdown, and it just doesn't get high amplitude. And there's some kind of efficiency window they have definitely hit here with this particular mount and this silencer. It's a clear hybrid design. I think anyone who has looked in the blast chamber of a surge bypass silencer can see that it's a hybrid design. I think the magic here is the multiple pressure stages with the annular flow. This has more advanced annular flow than the WB. It's bigger, like I said, and it at each pressure stage, because they're both stage pressure silencers, at each pressure stage in this silencer, there's more efficient management of pressure, and somehow, I don't know how they do it, but somehow it's a dang 6-inch silencer with a mount, man. And you just wouldn't think it would do this. This is one of those things that's like, okay, that's what it's doing. It's got to be one of the most surprising things I've seen. And we've seen some in the past 5 or so years of this podcast. When you've been listening, you've heard me be surprised about several techs. This has got to be up there. It's got to be one. I don't know if it's the most surprising thing. I don't think it's the most surprising thing, but it's up there, dude. And I say it's not the most surprising thing because we've seen performance like this for like the Vent 3, but that's a way bigger silencer, right? We're going to talk about that in a minute here. But again, one thing to keep in mind as we go through this is how similar the overall personnel risk is, or how close the overall blast severity is to the PTR Vent 3. And the CACM, it outperforms the Vent 3 in several ways. But I'm telling you, but when we saw the Vent 3 basically dump gas and rob energy through the PIP lattice, we were like, okay, cool. Haven't seen that before, but it makes sense. That's a good idea. Good tech. That's cool. Very evenly distributed flow. Very efficient. What a great design. Cool. That's my opinion in a nutshell of the Vent 3. I was like, that's cool. Okay, it's pretty long. It's like 8 inches long, but we get it, dude. Super quiet. Awesome. And then you see the CACM do something similar, but kind of better in some ways. And I'm not just talking about the suppression rating, guys, because that's marginally better. I'm not talking about that. The suppression rating is higher, sure. What I'm talking about is the actual gas dynamics, though. And when you see what the CACM does in the data that is published, the full data traces that we've published, that we always publish, when you look at that, you're like, WTF, mate? You're like, what is that, dude? Like, what is this? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Performance discussion at a time of 47 minutes and 58 seconds. Okay, 1 second. Excuse me. Pardon me. Sorry about that. Okay. System performance. Okay. This is the meat and potatoes. I'm hungry. Go ahead and pull up the report. We're going to get into this report 6203. And before we start, I just for the record and for completeness, for posterity, I do want to say with this published test, we are at 230 data points in the public rankings. Ladies and gentlemen, that's insane. That's 230 published tests. 203 full reports. We can now literally say we have hundreds of reports published on the website. Someone asked me, "Well, how many reports and silencer test data points and engineering analysis data points does Pew Science have on silencers?" You say publicly? Well, they have hundreds publicly. To be able to say that is like literally ludicrous, but it's true. It's actually the most insane thing ever. So I like to take a moment to thank you all for making it possible. That's crazy. So we already went through all the physical characteristics of the silencer in the previous topics, and the fact you'll be able to get the silencer from Apparition Instruments as the 5CM. This is all like the opening paragraphs of the report. So we're going to move straight to performance, okay? Bottom line up front, 42.6 suppression rating, 1 meter left of the end cap, 1.6 meters above the ground in the true free field. 30 flat, 6 inches right of the shooter's right ear. That brings us to a composite suppression rating of 43 flat, on the standard untuned 10.3 inch barrel Mark 18 with 070 gas port, H2 buffer, carbine buffer spring, stock position 4 of 6, M193 ammunition. Okay, so first things first, not super quiet when we consider how loud suppressed weapons are in general, because it's not like in the 90 zone. No, it's in the 40 zone. Okay. For a 10.3 inch Mark 18, brother, this is actually ridiculous for a Mark 18. Like, okay, 10.3 inch 5.56, really? Like, these suppression ratings don't get like this that often. This is not normal. If it was normal, we wouldn't be like okay, run of the mill. No, this is not normal. It's abnormal, objectively abnormal. And remember, this is a hybrid design. This is not a conventional cone gas trap. And it's also not a Huxworks flow-through silencer. It's a hybrid. The CAC technology in the CACM is surge bypass. At the top of the report, scroll down from the main rating here, and you're going to see the first section. So the first section at the top of the report, we have a short performance summary. This is a little case study, and it compares two hybrid technologies. Okay, some folks may not have thought of this comparison when they, because a lot of people chase the shiny stuff. A lot of folks chase what's shiny and new, and even with CAT, they fall for their marketing and think it's so edgy and cool, so they might just, CAT's the best. We don't worry about anything else. Okay, cool, but our job at Pew Science is not to do that. Our job is to look at the entire market holistically and look at the standouts and compare technologies so we can figure out where we were, where we are, and where we're going. Okay? So, again, some folks might not have thought of this comparison, but we did immediately. We feel it is very telling to compare Knight's armament PRT tech to CAT search bypass tech. And here I'm going to tell you why. The Knight's tech was engineered to manage internal blast and shock physics in the silencer, and it was engineered to do very interesting things in the blast chamber. Their tech does not significantly increase bolt speed. It reduces toxic hazards to the shooter. It appears in a variety of sizes, a lot of different design envelopes. Excuse me, sorry. Figure 1. This first bar chart shows some comparisons. We took two of the Knight's silencers, the CRS PRT and the MCQ PRT, and we compared them with the CACM and the KK, both from CAT. So the CRS and the CACM are basically 6 inches long, more or less. The exact length, I think the PRT is 6.3 inches. The CACM is 6.1. The MCQ and the KK are basically 4.5 inches long. The MCQ being 4.4, the KK being 4.7. Okay. So different size classes. There's two. So here you would call the KK and the MCQ K silencers, right? Whereas the CACM and the CRS would be normal size 5.56 silencers, right? So all four silencers have a high flow rate. All four of them also suppress blast hazards. That's true. But look how far ahead in suppression the surge bypass models are. Those surge bypass models from CAT, look how far they are in suppression compared with the PRT silencers from Knights. It's not like a little bit different, right? Like, you don't even have to know what the suppression rating is to look at the number. Like, look at the bars. Look at the visual cues here. That's why the suppression rating is like it is. It's meant to be easy. It's a 0 to 100 scale. A child can use this. It's one of the easiest metrics to understand. It's not a little bit. It's not like you might think, oh, yeah, it's a little quieter. Oh, that's nice. No. No, dude, the performance differentials here are crossing suppression rating categories to the degree it's a big deal. And you can do this yourself. You can outfit identical guns with these different silencers and you go shoot around a field if you want, or you go into a room, go into a damn room or a house or wherever you want. And you're going to become acutely aware that one of these technologies is protecting you more than the other one. One of them is revealing your position differently than the other one. Those are facts. Objective facts. Another fact, and this is an important part of this whole discussion that you shouldn't forget, both of these are recent. Both of these are recent technologies, okay? This is a point I'm trying to make to you. I was at SHOT Show last year speaking with Reed Knight about these PRT silencers. I will hold them in my hands in the booth, dude. These are not relics. This isn't like super old ancient Knight stuff, which, by the way, I love. I'm a huge Knight's Armament fan. If some of you who think, oh, he's saying bad things about Knight's Armament, I'm absolutely not saying anything bad about Knight's Armament. I love the Knight's Armament products. I think they're so cool. I'm like one of those weird Knights fans. What I'm telling you is these are recent Knights models. They're new. These aren't like old. Oh, that's their old stuff. You wouldn't know. You're not in the new. Didn't you know that the new CRS came out? Shut up. This silencer is basically brand new. In silencer time. Okay, like if a silencer just came out a year ago, it's brand new to me. Come on, guys, this is a brand new technology. What, you think they're going to put old technology out with a 3D printed thing? No, this isn't old, dude. So don't bring that argument. When we see a pair of silencers, small and large, get absolutely decimated by another pair of silencers, small and large, and both pairs of silencers are basically supposed to do the same damn thing, it's worth highlighting. Because remember, this isn't like, oh, there's some random silencers we're comparing. No, this is paired silencers with a certain technology with the same advertised performance traits, like high flow rate, reduced weapon function, superior suppression performance. Like that's like durability, combat use. Like, I think it's worth highlighting because people are using these silencers for actual work too. Like the British guys have a freaking gun right now with the MCQ on it. Did you know that? Yeah. So come on, dude. This is relevant research. This is up-to-date, relevant, and actionable research for people that are using these products and these systems. If I was a guy using these systems, honestly, this is a little unsettling. Like on one hand, it's a little unsettling, but on another hand, it's exciting. Why? Well, on one hand, you're like, holy crap, why am I using this damn MCQ if I don't have to use it? But on the other hand, you're like, wow, look how fast things are advancing. I guess it all depends if you're an optimist or you're a pessimist. What you see in the glass half full or you see in the glass half empty. You can make yourself feel good or bad about this. It's all about the state of your mind. I'm just presenting the information to you in a way that's digestible in plain English. Okay? So that's a big picture. That's a big picture, and I hope that helps. That's just to start off here. And I don't think I'm just going to say this. Take it for what it's worth. I do not think there's anywhere else on the planet where you're going to get that type of performance comparison in one place. We have not seen it. I haven't seen one person take it to task where it's like, oh, well, here's the two sizes of the Knights cans. Here's a more modern, more advanced technology. I don't say more modern because it's like around the same age. Here's another advanced technology, and see it stomp it. Like no one's shown that. Well, you know why? You know why they're not showing you? I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why we're the only ones looking at Knight stuff and showing you like this in a critical way, in an objective way. It's because we don't sell silencers. So when you look at all the people that are selling silencers, like the YouTube influencers and the dealers and the distributors, they're not going to be talking about the Knight silencers that much. Why? Because they're not huge sellers for them. So why would they even talk about them? Well, the answer is that it's because of money. They don't care about the technology. They don't care about how the silencers work. If they're not going to sell them, it's not going to come across their lips. They're not going to talk about a silencer they're not selling. You understand? Okay. I mean, I'm sorry if that's like too aggressive, but it's real. Okay, 1 second. But I tell you right now, we spent how much money on a 16 test Knight's Armament program? Our own money, by the way. Pew Science internal funding was used to fund all of that Knight's research. We bought the mounts ourselves. We borrowed the silencers, and all the testing and engineering time, even to code the app that you use in the Knights Armament report, which is like to this day more complete than what Knights can give you or will give you. That's all internal funding. We weren't paid to do any of that. You know what I mean? One second, I got a frog in my throat. Sorry about that. I'm losing my voice from today. But that's what I'm saying. Like I just want to make sure you guys understand why the Knights cans are in there, and it's not to be like, oh, they're doing that to make the cat silencers look good. It's like, no. Make no mistake. Show me another technology that's comparable. That is supposed to do what these do. It's not going to be Huxworks, so don't say flow through. Okay? And then once you find that other technology that's supposed to compete with the surge bypass, that's your first task. The second task is going to be find me another pair that is analogous to the CACM and the KK. You can't. Because the only other one you're going to be able to pick, and I'm going to tell you right now what you're going to say, is Surefire. And Surefire's too old. So I'm not going to put a Mini 2 and an RC2 versus a KK and a CACM. That's less relevant. And the back pressure is just simply too high on those, even though it's reduced. It is a hybrid, but it's a very, 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 very primitive hybrid in modern terms, although it's more advanced than something like a polonium. Okay, I'm not saying the RC2 is better than a polonium. Don't put words in my mouth, but you understand what I'm talking about with regard to hybrid design and efficiency. Okay? All right, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about nerd stuff. Nerdy physics and what the CACM does. So scroll down. You're going to go all the way down to figure 2. Past the table. Don't worry. Those numbers are scary. I don't want to scare you by looking at decibels. Okay, everyone's very hung up on those. That doesn't matter. We're going to look at figure 2. Here's where things get serious. And if you've been paying attention to this research for the past 203 reports, and if you've looked at blast waveforms for the past 230 tests, you probably saw these in this report, and you were like, huh, that's weird. The silencer is how big? 6 inches, you say. 5.56 silencer, you say. Okay. Yeah, I thought the same thing. Like if you're being honest, you look at the blast overpressure in the free field in 2A, full time scale, of course, as always. We brought this one out just for emphasis. Kind of will we take it out, the time scale real far there. I want to emphasize something here. Just to make sure you could appreciate the physics, because that's what we're looking at. The bolt carrier group takes such a long time to come back. It's interesting because it's just a Mark 18, and the first couple jet and the main blast are pretty close in amplitude too. I mean, they're not like real close, but they're probably what do they differ by, like 50 pascals or less? And you're like, huh, interesting. And then you look at the blowdown, and you're like, that's pretty fast somehow. You're like, okay, that's interesting. But then you also look at the FRP, and the FRP is quenched in like, oh, I don't know, like a millisecond after the bullet comes out, literally. I'm saying, like, you might think, if you're new to this podcast, you might think I'm like being just like hyperbolic and like, oh, that happens pretty quick. It's like the FRP gets quenched a millisecond after. No, when I say it's happening in a millisecond after the bullet comes out, I'm saying literally you can count the timestamps. We're sampling at microsecond resolution. We're sampling 1,000 times every millisecond. There's 1 million samples per second. So in every millisecond, there's 1,000 ticks that we count. I'm telling you, a millisecond after the bullet comes out of this silencer, the CACM's like, yeah, we're going to turn FRP off now. There is FRP. Don't get me wrong. It's there. Because there's always FRP. Because that's how physics works, and you're shooting the silencers in air. It's not like you're sitting in a nitrogen purge shooting your gun. Okay? There's oxygen in the air, in the silencer before you shoot it, before the first shot. What I'm telling you is that the blast propagation that you call FRP during the first shot just turns off after a millisecond of time has passed after the bullet leaves the damn end cap. And this silencer is 6 inches long. Okay, I'm going back to that because this is all topical and relevant. To get a better feel for this, you can look deeper, and we provide this for you. If you look at figure 3, you have a figure 3A and 3B. Here you can see the little black hump. Okay, look at the black curve. That's the first shot. You see the little black hump? That's that first shot. It's small, yes, it is. If you have a sharp eye, another thing you can notice, specifically in figure 3B, is that there is a slight accumulation rate increase on the rising slope from all the shots, even in the quenched FRP shot. What is that? What is that minor accumulation rate increase that's labeled in the figure there? Well, it's a rate change from pressure staging and the stagnation relief in the multi-stage surge bypass system of the silencer. And you're not going to see this in the WB or the ODB. Okay? You need to understand that. And you can go, if you don't believe me, go look. Because remember, we publish data for every silencer we test. And we annotate the data and we look at it. We don't just throw it on a website because we want to be like, just a copycat or something. No, it's purposeful. So you see in the CACM, you see this rate change. Now, is that a little bit of nano-related action? Potentially. That's some research for another time. But the fact of the matter is, the important part here, the silencer is doing literally what is shown in the data plots. The silencer is doing what is shown in the plots. Okay? And I want to make sure I'm getting the point across. The cool thing about real test data like this is that no one's making up stories about it. And that's the cool part. The data on our website has been scrutinized and peer-reviewed more than any other silencer data in the history of mankind. More than any other. The magnifying glasses are on us 24/7. If we mess one thing up, if we had messed one thing up in the past 6 years, it would be latched onto like white on rice, dude. We would never hear the end of it. I know what people would do. That's why we're so careful. And that's the good thing about this. This is undeniable in the physics. It's really cool. It's not hyperbole when I tell you the CACM 556 silencer on a 10.3-inch barrel with a nano mount is producing very low amplitude blast pressure propagation that is more consistent than Event 3 with almost no FRP in a 6-inch envelope. And it's doing so in a fashion that's probably the most controlled of anything we've seen on the gun. No, like seriously, like I'm talking about the raw data. If controlled or control was a silencer trait, it would be with the CACM. You would say it's the opposite of erratic. It's the opposite of unpredictable. It's the opposite of wild or lucky or something like that. I'm throwing out all the adjectives I can so you can understand. Like when I'm trying to describe the system to you, because I'm trying to describe to you what you too, not only me, but you can see in the data. Not only us, it's not just us. No, we're giving you the raw data to look at yourself. You can see this. It's like laser beam consistent, dude. Like honestly, and this isn't 100% sure or anything, but when you really think about it, I don't know that you can get this type of performance without being that consistent. Through all the research we've done, this probably goes hand in hand, consistency with performance, because I think you can be consistent and you can be worse, but I don't think you can be better and be less consistent. I think at these pressures, at these blast load input pressures from the darn 10.3-inch barrel, if you're not minding your P's and Q's, bro, what are you going to get? You're going to get that energetic armament arcs. You're going to get a nice armament MCQ. You're going to get a Sandman S from Dead Air. You get ridiculous, crazy blast propagation if you don't mind your P's and Q's. And it doesn't matter if the people on Facebook or wherever, dude, wherever the silencer boomer fuds hang out still and say, oh, 556 silencers sound the same. It's all supersonic. It's all loud. Dude, it doesn't matter if they say that. Ignore that. Okay, it doesn't matter, because silencers like this make the primitive silencers that the influencers are recommending for like half a decade to you or more than a decade to you, it makes them obsolete. Like you don't even need to think about it anymore. this type of stuff. When you look at this type of technology, whether it be from CAD or PTR or whomever, the data we're seeing, the raw data that we're seeing in this report, it makes the other stuff completely obsolete by every measure of objective suppression performance, full stop. And it's not close. It's not close. Now, what is close though? There are silencers that are close. I'm just saying, like, this makes the, like, dude, if you have this that exists, don't bring an ARCs into the conversation. That's not the same type of, like, if you're racing cars, dude, that's not even the same. Like, you may as well have different types of wheels. You might compare like an old 3-wheeler that they don't even sell anymore to like a Ferrari. It's not even the same. It's not even a car to car. I don't think they're the same product, like the same product class, honestly. That's how different it is. But there are things that are close to the CACM. What's close? I'll tell you what's close. Look at Research Note 1, because I put them in there in the damn report there. What's close? PTR Vent 3, Huxworks Flow 556 Ti, Centurion Arms Maximus L, PTR Vent Spiritus, Cat ODB. All those are pretty close. I mean, close in overall performance. Yes, absolutely. In overall suppression performance, they are close. That's right. But read the notes now in that list of 5. I'll read them to you. PTR Vent 3, okay, 2 inches longer. Similar gross performance, but I can't completely mask FRP like the CACM, okay. Huxworks Flow 556 Ti, amazing silencer. Distal flow rate, though, that's pretty high. You could be undesirable blast load reflections in your surfaces. Everyone knows that shot at Huxworks, they know that can be boomy. We know that. The research shows it. The research supplements show it. The member, and by the way, if you're not a Pew Science member and you still want to know about Huxworks flow through tech, and you haven't looked at the frequency domain inner-ear response plots that we've published in the member research supplements, bro, I don't know what else I can tell you to convince you. Look at that. What's the next thing? Centurion Arms Maximus L, incredible silencer. Very strong performance. But what else did we say? It lacks the FRP control, lacks the consistency. It just can't do the same thing. Next one, PTR Vent Spiritus, excellent silencer. Excellent example of performance. But distal blast propagation control is just not like the CACM. CACM's on another level. Cat ODB, that's the Cat ODB, there's Cat competing with Cat. ODB, overboard. 762 silencer, not optimized for this. Bigger. It's good, but it can't possibly be the same echelon of performance. It's not designed for the platform, and you can see that in the data. Now, it's still, if you have a Cat ODB and you want to use it on 556, we'll go to town, because that's an amazing, like, if you were talking about like a universal rifle silencer you could use on 762 and 556, I mean, the ODB is like one of the greats. Absolutely, dude. People do that all the time. I'm just saying, like, don't compare it to this Cat silencer. It's not the same thing. You know, I'm just saying, like, totality. I mean, what I told you, I think I said this on social media the other day. We're at the Formula One stages of this, guys. We're deep. Dude, we're so deep in this right now. Like, this research, you got to think, once you get like 5 to 6 years into something and you really start to look at it so closely, and you're so familiar with the way the combustion propagation is on these weapon systems, we have so much data, we start to see trends. Like, we can give technical opinions and performance judgments that I think simply other folks aren't going to be able to give you. And you folks that follow this research, I think you're going to be able to draw conclusions that I think the layman might not completely understand or appreciate, and I think that's okay. I mean, we give you the big number at the top of the page to give you a peg point in risk. And if you look at that, and if you have like 40 to 45 or 37 to 30, and it's in the same zone, you might call that good and be good. And that's fine. That's that coarse view you can look at. But if you really want to build race cars and you want to get that time slip and be the fastest, maybe you got to look a little closer. And if you're trying to design the best mousetrap and kill the most mice, maybe you are adding like a sarin gas module to your mousetrap. Maybe you are using Zyklon B. I don't know what you're using, Zyklon A. Pick one. Now, research note 2 is very helpful for you. 1 second. He's weird. He's talking about war crimes. Research note 2 is pretty helpful because it actually physically describes something that you should take away from the waveforms we just talked about. The silencer flows fast in early time. inside the silencer, and when the blast load comes out, it's actually throttled in such a way it behaves completely differently from a Huxworks silencer, for example. If you shoot the CACM silencer near something, it's not going to reflect the same way as the Hux will. Now, are there going to be reflections? Of course there's going to be reflections. Blast loads do reflect off of surfaces. There are load amplification factors that take place, and it can be more severe. Not saying that. What I'm saying is, are you going to be able to hear a difference? And I think, yes. This is I don't want to use the article the. See, this is a balance that you want to achieve, I think. I think most people that are making advanced 556 suppression systems, I think most people that are doing it are chasing this. I think this is one thing that people are. This goes back to that conversation we had in the intro about benchmarks. I told you I was going to bring it back to that. I think, and that's one. I'm not saying this is like I said earlier. I'm not saying this is a benchmark. I'm saying there's a case for it to be, and I'm walking you through why. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm walking you through why I think what I think. Now, based on performance, I think people designing these 556 systems, I think they're chasing blast propagation control with simultaneously high flow rate. I think the only people to achieve this are doing so with hybrid designs, and there's multiple companies achieving performance like this. I think there are new companies popping up every day that are throwing their hat into the ring and trying to do it, and that's great. I can tell you right now that if you think you're one of those companies, cool. That's awesome. I hope we test your silencers. This is the competition you're trying to beat. Know that. So please try, because everyone's going to be better for it if you try. Okay. But if you think you're doing the same thing as this CACM or Event 3 or an ODB or whatever, I urge you to consider what that means. I urge you to consider what that actually means for the benefit of your customers. I think, make sure that if you're actually achieving that level of performance, you got to back it up. Because boy, oh boy, I can promise you, and I think we've proven over the past few years, I can promise you that your customer is going to find out pretty quick if you're a liar, liar, pants on fire. If you're a liar, liar, pants on fire, I don't know if you want to be advertising in certain ways, because we're going to know. You can't hide it. We're going to know. We're going to figure it out. You can only hide for so long. So don't be careful what you start yelling all these crazy things. You be careful. Before you know it, you're going to before you know it, your data's going to be all up on the website. Then what are you going to do? You can't put that genie back in the bottle. There's no report we've taken down in 6 years. There's 203 dang reports, and we do not remove them. And we can test any public product we want. I'm just going to tell you right now, we're doing this for consumers. I don't care. I don't care who you are. We are going to characterize silencers if they're important enough to characterize, or a company asks us to do it. And we're going to keep doing it. And we have a long ways to go. We still got to get to stuff. We got Silencer Co. Sparrow, all that stuff. We're going to get to it. I'm just telling you, this isn't stopping. It's not getting smaller or less important. I'm going to say this: the level of performance we've characterized in this report is not normal. I want this to be eclipsed. I want more people to come, and I want them to beat this. Now, eventually, we're going to hit a point where it's just kind of hitting the governor. You're like, well, 556, 10.3 inch barrel. Maybe we're hitting around this size, and that's what's going to happen. Probably what's going to happen is you're going to have these lengths, and it's you probably will become Formula One, or it will become like racing, where it's you have open class, and then you have specialized whatever, and you're eventually going to the quietest 6-inch silencer, the quietest 6-inch silencer you can ever make is this, and we'll probably have that. And then the quietest 5-inch silencer you can ever make is this, and we'll probably have that. That's probably what we're going to get eventually. But I'm going to tell you, because of the popularity of 556, we talked about this last episode, because of the popularity of 556, I think you are seeing advancements faster and optimization faster, because it's a race. Competition is driving innovation. You would not have the type of silencers you have right now without the competition just wouldn't happen. You'd have silencer co-omegas the whole time. You'd have dead air Sam S's. Okay? I'm telling you. Without competition, you have nothing. Capitalism, baby. So to those members who have access to the full report, if you scroll down we're still in the report. If you scroll down to section 6.203.2.2, sound signatures at the shooter's ear, that's in the full member version. That would be figures 4 and 5. There's a total of 4 figures in that section. If you're a member and you see those waveforms are probably, at least from what we have seen, are probably some of the cleanest Mark 18 shooter's ear waveforms we've ever measured in what they show, like the consistency, the entrance to negative phase impulse, the timing, the FRP front loading on that impulse curve, the decoupling of the mechanical impacts with the weapon. Just take the name. If the name of the silencer offends you, or like you get emotionally upset about what we're looking at, I want you instead forget about the silencer. Just from a blast physics standpoint and blast propagation standpoint, this is pretty looking. And it basically shows you, well, tune the gun, you might get something prettier, but good luck getting something prettier without a special gun. And I mean, that's basically what I see when I look at these waveforms, and you can't really ask for something much better than this. And that's considering the super short dwell time of the Mark 18, which definitely helps. Boy, does that help. What a test. I think, man, I don't know that if you tune the Mark 18, you shrink that gas port a little bit, oh man, these waveforms would give him more pretty. But look at them now. It's not even tuned. Look how pretty it is. Now, I'm telling you, the Mark 18, with that short dwell time, I think it's like a sweet spot for this. Like, it just looks so nice at the shooter's ear. So yeah, we compared stuff earlier, but look at the gross. Scroll down more and past that really, really, really long big bar chart. We put some quick comparisons, and we've done this earlier, but this is like more like specific. There's a list of muzzle suppression holistic risk comparisons, and then free field operator shooter holistic risk comparisons. The muzzle suppression of the CACM on the Mark 18 on the 10.3 inch barrel, it's similar to the Vent 3, the Flow 556 Ti. That's the big Flow 556, not the Flow 556K. The Infinity 762 with the 556 end cap, solid end cap from Otter Creek, and the Maximus L. I think those are like the really heavy hitters, right? The ear hazards on this gun with the CACM and the Nano, it's kind of like, again, the Flow 556, the big one, the PTR Vent Spiritus, the Flow 762, the Cat ODB, and the Vent 3. Again, these are all heavy hitters, dude. These are heavy hitting silencers, really advanced. Just because they're not new on, some of these aren't new on the market. What, you forgot about the Flow 762? Dude, don't forget, don't sleep on this tech. I think it's people get shiny object syndrome, and you need to see like they're still out there. Look at the Pew Science rankings, guys. Those don't change until things get added. Nothing gets taken away. Things get demoted when they get usurped, but nothing's deleted. This is the upper, like all the silencers I just mentioned. These are the upper echelons of 556 SBR suppression. It does not get much better than the silencers I'm mentioning here. It really doesn't get much better. Again, anyone claiming they have the quietest 556 silencer, they need to beat all of these silencers I'm mentioning. And this is a group of absolute killers. You got to, if you say I have the quietest 556 silencers, okay, beat all these. Could you imagine trying to beat all these silencers, dude? These are amazing silencers. There's a bunch of companies in here. Now, just some you keep seeing pop up, but that's how it works. What, you think a different team's going to win Formula 1 every year? I don't know, man. There's not like one or two of these silencers that works well, right? These are all killer silencers. If you were in the early 2000s, like the year 2000s, like early on, like Like, let's say you were like pre 9/11 or like around 9/11 time or whatever. Like, let's say you like over 20 years ago, you fell into a coma. You were like shooting silencers back then. Let's say you like got hit in the head. You fell into a coma and you just woke up and shot a vent 3. You'd lose your mind, dude. And you might fall into another coma. Just like you hit your head because you're like, oh my God. Oh, that's crazy. It can't be real. You pass out again. Then if you shot a CACM and you saw the size of it, you'd like potentially knock yourself on the head like a Looney Tunes character and like create like a self-induced coma. I'm knocking myself out. I don't believe this. You'd be knocked out again. I'm telling you, I don't know. I'm joking, but I'm saying it's so nuts. It's completely bonkers here. What we have access to as consumers, if you really want to buy a 5.56 silencer now, you could throw a dart at some of these and you're not going to hit a bad silencer. And that's not the case for the whole market, but it's the case with this cross section. And that's why we use the suppression rating. You know what I mean? If I told you 5.56 silencers would be doing this 5 years ago, you would laugh at me. You would absolutely. If I told you the technology that the Vent 3, the full 5.56K, the Infinity, the Maximus L, the Spiritus, the ODB, this CACM, the KK. If I told you 5 years ago that I showed you cutaways of these silencers, you'd be like, "Oh, are you a wizard? Are you a wizard person? Are you a witch? Are you an alien?" Like, that's what you ask me, because it's like, I should say 4 Systems. Those guys. I mean, look at that. Look what they're doing, and they're like brand new. They're like, I say brand new. They've been doing a couple years, but did you know that 4 Systems started by like looking at reading Pew Science and figuring out how silencers work, and then started designing them? Look, I mean, guys, 5 years ago you wouldn't even thought of that, and now look where we are. You should be excited. I don't even care if you don't like this CACM silencer. You should be excited for where we are. I hope that 5CM thing comes out so people can buy it. And, the people that don't want to spend the cost of a used car on a rifle and a silencer to buy the CACM thing. I joke, but like, it's expensive, and I get it, dude. Like, hopefully folks have access to this tech. I think that's I wanted to see it trickle down. I love it when quiet silencers exist on whatever platforms there are. It makes it like the old days where we would all go, we try to find the quietest silencer, right? And there's like no one with silencers. You have to go beg, borrow, and steal, and go like talk to your buddy who knew a guy to go look at them. And we like, oh yeah, I heard that was like the new hotness, cool. And you get one, and then like you wait, file your paperwork and eventually get it back, and then you'd be like, oh, okay, what guns am I gonna buy to use with the silencer now? It's gonna be so fun. And then you try to figure out what the coolest host would be with your silencer. Like, that's what we used to do. I'm telling you, I know it sounds backward to a lot of you guys, but that's what silencer people used to do, me included. It's what we always did. That's actually what I still do. I actually do. I will find the silencer, and then I'd go shop for hosts to figure out, okay, what gun do I want to use this on? It's the similar but truncated tech. It's in the KK. Dude, if you like the Surefire RC2, but you want less back pressure and you want it to be the size of the Mini 2 while almost hitting RC2 performance, bro, it's like the KK, like, for real. Like, so that and the CACM together, this is something I was thinking about. I feel like those two silencers, the KK and the CACM, they're like, I think they just bring a ridiculous performance combination that doesn't make sense to me. Like, because you look at the night stuff again. You look at that night stuff. It honestly makes me a little bit sad. Like, dude, I wanted that night stuff to be good so badly. Bro, we spent so much money to do that 16 test nights program. It was so cool. But at the same time, it was kind of heartbreaking in a way. Like, the mounting collar of those PRT silencers is cool and functional. It uses ball bearings. I love it so much, dude. I think the silencers look beautiful. And if you ask me, I think they're iconic. Like, even in this day and age, I would say those Knights cans are iconic. But dude, the performance was just not there. And you think that was fun for me? Like, honestly, like, do you think it was fun for me putting together a 16-test research project report for the entire world to see, when my original hope was that the Knights sponsors would be so stellar that it'd be some kind of like pivotal thing and everyone would look at it and be like, oh my God, look at these things. You think that was fun for that outcome to happen? I mean, it was fun to do the program, don't get me wrong. Like, for the love of the game, it was fun in that way. But it was also very unpleasant for me personally. Like, as a Knights fan, that was unpleasant for me. So that part sucked in a way. But, you know, now one of the silver linings is that we're using that data and the report as another benchmark, you know, maybe in a little bit different way than the benchmarks I mentioned earlier on the episode today. And frankly, I think that's okay. And, you know, not all silencers have to be super quiet. Not all silencers have to offer the most protection. I think there are so many that exist. But knowing how things perform, I think that's the important part. And I think this CACM report pushes that further into our into the global understanding. Every time we do something like this, maybe the silencer doesn't have to be a benchmark for you, but I think the understanding can be, because we saw that you can now restrict distal flow rate and gas momentum while still elevating early time flow rate to a degree that makes your weapon okay, doesn't gas you, and it's hiding the sound. I mean, go shoot one. Tell me what you think. It's nuts, dude. So big thanks to the R&D team at CAT for trusting Pew Science, as always, to perform this work. We consider that to be an honor, considering the levels of the technology that we've had the privilege of evaluating. They definitely do not hit it out of the park every time, but they're trying to. I mean, they're trying hard, and there's tons of companies that are right there with them trying too. It's a great time to be alive. We're happy to have front row seats to it. So I'd ask that you stay safe out there. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I hope it helps you. I think we're going to have some more data and analysis coming to you next week. So please take care. I'll talk with you folks again soon. All right, bye.